Imagine a world where everything is falling apart. Cities abandoned, trade collapsing, knowledge fading, and the greatest empire on earth crumbling into dust. Out of this chaos, a new civilization slowly begins to rise. This is the story of how Europe was born. In the early centuries of the Common Era, the Roman Empire dominated the Mediterranean world. It was vast, powerful, and remarkably stable, with roads connecting distant lands, trade flowing across regions, and cities thriving with culture, wealth, and learning. This period, often called the Pax Romana, brought peace and security to millions. But beneath this stability, cracks were forming. In the eastern provinces, a new religion, Christianity, emerged as a small movement and gradually spread throughout the empire. By the 4th century, it had gained enough influence that Roman emperors adopted it, transforming it into the empire's official faith. Yet even as Christianity unified people spiritually, the empire itself was weakening under economic struggles, plagues, and constant external pressure. Governing such a vast territory became increasingly difficult, and in 395 CE, the empire was divided into two halves: the Western Roman Empire, ruled from Rome, and the Eastern Roman Empire, ruled from Constantinople. While the eastern half remained wealthy, urban, and strong, the western half grew weaker, more rural, and increasingly vulnerable. Beyond its borders, powerful groups were on the move. Germanic tribes pressed against Roman frontiers, and although some were initially allowed to settle within the empire, this decision slowly eroded Roman authority. Over time, these groups carved out their own territories, and imperial control collapsed. In 476 CE, the last Western Roman emperor was deposed, marking the end of the Western Roman Empire. What followed is often called the Dark Ages, a period not just of decline but of transformation, where Roman traditions, Christian beliefs, and barbarian cultures merged to form the foundation of medieval Europe. By around 500 CE, Europe was divided into small kingdoms ruled by warrior kings. These kingdoms adopted Christianity and borrowed elements of Roman governance, but they lacked the infrastructure that had once supported a unified empire. Cities shrank, roads decayed, trade nearly disappeared, and literacy declined. Power became localized, resting in the hands of those who could defend their land. Meanwhile, the Eastern Roman Empire, known as the Byzantine Empire, continued to flourish. In the 6th century, Emperor Justinian attempted to reconquer the Western territories, but his efforts ultimately failed, and the divide between East and West became permanent. Soon after, another major force reshaped the world. In the 7th century, Islamic armies expanded rapidly, conquering vast regions across the Middle East, North Africa, and parts of Europe, forming a powerful new civilization that rivaled both Byzantium and the fragmented West. For a time, it seemed that Western Europe might be overwhelmed. But in 732, a Frankish leader halted this expansion, preserving the independence of the West. From this moment emerged a powerful dynasty that would shape European history. Its most famous ruler, Charlemagne, was crowned emperor in 800 CE and united much of Western Europe under his rule. His reign brought a degree of stability, encouraged learning, and revived aspects of Roman culture, creating a sense of unity that had been absent for centuries. However, after his death, his empire was divided among his heirs, weakening it once again, and leaving Europe vulnerable to new waves of invasion. From the north came the Vikings, raiding coastal and inland settlements. From the east came the Hungarians, and from the south, Muslim forces launched attacks along the Mediterranean. With kings unable to provide protection, local leaders took control, building fortified castles and establishing their own authority. This led to the development of feudalism, a system based on land ownership, loyalty, and military service, society became structured around this system, with kings depending on nobles, nobles relying on knights, and peasants working the land to support them all. Though harsh and unequal, feudalism provided a level of stability in a dangerous world. By the 10th century, conditions began to improve. A more favorable climate increased agricultural production, populations grew, and external invasions slowed. Forests were cleared for farming, villages expanded into towns, and trade networks began to revive. Markets flourished, and a new class of merchants emerged, bringing economic life back to Europe. Cities grew larger, becoming centers of trade and innovation. In regions like Italy, commerce flourished across the Mediterranean, while in Northern Europe, towns gained independence and formed self-governing communities. As prosperity returned, so did culture and learning. Massive cathedrals rose as symbols of faith and wealth. Universities were founded, and scholars rediscovered ancient knowledge, sparking an intellectual revival that would shape Europe's future. At the same time, Europe began expanding outward. In 1066, a Norman ruler conquered England, transforming its political and cultural landscape. In Spain, Christian kingdoms gradually pushed southward, reclaiming territory from Muslim rulers. In Eastern Europe, settlers expanded into new lands, spreading Western culture and influence. Then, in 1095, the Crusades began, as Christian armies marched eastward in an attempt to capture Holy Lands. Although their success was limited, these campaigns connected Europe with distant regions, increasing trade and the exchange of ideas. During this period, the Catholic Church grew into a powerful and centralized institution. The Pope gained influence over both religious and political matters, often rivaling kings in authority. At the same time, monarchs began strengthening their control, slowly building more unified states. However, this progress was interrupted in the 14th century by a devastating crisis. Crop failures led to famine, and in 1347, the Black Death swept across Europe, killing nearly 1/3 of the population. Entire communities were wiped out, and fear spread across the continent. Yet even in the face of such devastation, change continued. With fewer workers available, labor became more valuable, giving peasants and workers greater bargaining power. Over time, this led to improved conditions and weakened the rigid structures of feudalism. Europe began to recover, and new technologies, such as improved tools and the printing press, accelerated progress and the spread of knowledge. In Italy, a cultural revival known as the Renaissance emerged, inspired by the art and ideas of ancient Greece and Rome. This movement emphasized human potential, creativity, and discovery, marking a transition toward the modern age. At the same time, warfare was transformed by the introduction of gunpowder, reducing the dominance of knights and castles, and allowing kings to build powerful centralized armies. Stronger monarchies emerged in regions like England, France, and Spain, laying the foundations for modern nation-states. As Europe stabilized and grew stronger, its focus shifted outward. Explorers set sail across unknown oceans, seeking new trade routes and opportunities. By the late 15th century, voyages across the Atlantic connected Europe to the Americas, marking the beginning of global expansion. From the fall of Rome to the rise of powerful kingdoms and cultural rebirth, Europe had undergone centuries of transformation. Out of chaos, fragmentation, invasion, and crisis, a new civilization had emerged, one that would go on to shape the modern world.